knows who Spider-Man is. Everyone knows who the Avengers are. 20, 30 years ago, that probably wasn't the case. Like, sure, not everyone knew who Thor was and who Iron Man was. Now you can't find a person who doesn't know who Iron Man or Thor is. Nerd or geek is somebody who,
Nerd or a geek?
Someone who's really smart, kind of knows a lot about a lot of things.
The classic definition would be somebody who is into comic books and computer games.
Consider a geek somebody who likes, Star Wars or Game of Thrones.
Yeah, if you like chemistry over football, like you're a nerd.
Just kind of, I just think a smart person when I think of a nerd or a geek.
Someone who enjoys schoolwork more than they should. I'd consider that a nerd.
In today's day and age, they pretty much just become synonymous.
I think nerds are more academic. Geeks are more into those TV shows and comics and stuff.
Like they're the really scientific-y, geeky nerds that like no one really talks to. They're seclusive, and then I think there's like the secret nerds and geeks, like me basically. Like I absolutely love Star Wars.
My main geek outs. I'm a wrestling geek. I love pro wrestling. And that is something that not a lot of people are willing to admit.
I think a nerd obviously is more focused towards school.
You can be a music geek. You can, where you love, like music that may be considered nerdy, but you are very mainstream when it comes to TV or video games.
I mean, I think you don't have to be full geek or full nerd. I mean, you can have geeky tendencies.
We would consider me a draft geek, and like an NFL draft geek. I obsess over the draft. I research prospects that, really has no benefit to my life other than it's my own enjoyment. So yeah, there's definitely plenty of things that I geek out in, and now that I think about it.
If you just look at me, you probably wouldn't know that, I like Star Wars and, that I like, Pokemon. Like, Pokemon's awesome. Dragon Ball Z, like, that shit's awesome.
I definitely think there is some crossover, and there's definitely different levels of geekdom. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just a label that we put on it.
Like, if you were a nerd, you were, a science geek who wore his pants like up to his, beyond his belly button.
I think they're definitely, I think there's, there's not absolute geek and absolute mainstream. I think it's definitely a spectrum, just like anything else is.
Now you see, like, people are attracted to people who wear glasses. And
you were the guy with like the broken glasses all the time. You got like the crap kicked out of him in high school, but now it's not, that's not it. It's like the new cool thing, like to be a nerd or hipster or geek or whatever.
I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. Know everything about that movie / book.
When people are more out in the open now about what they like and what they don't like.
I don't view them as negative because I consider myself a little bit of a geek.
You're a lot more public than like with Facebook and Twitter and all that. Your life's more out there in the open. Now he might look like a frat bro, but he's actually like really nerdy. Like that's kind of cool.
People like to throw the word out. Like a girl will who watches Game of Thrones, let's say, will say, "Oh, I watch Game of Thrones. I'm such a nerd," when really they don't fit in with any of the criteria of nerd or geek culture.
People now could be like closet geeks and watch all the stuff, but not have to tell anyone. I don't know if that makes sense.
You're into, like football, and you want to know all the stats of like all the main players, or just all the stats on your team or whatever. You can look all that up, and you're like a football geek.
Now everyone goes on the internet, and the internet is such a bastion of geek culture that it's hard for mainstream people who may not consider themselves as geeks to stumble upon some of geek culture on the internet.
Now people just go online, like look at Tumblr. It's just kind of you're interacting with people, but it's virtual, and it's just like, and you can still have that passion about something. I think just nowadays it's just a lot easier to do it.
It's always going to be hard for real geeks, for the geekiest of the geeks. It's always going to be tough because you're by definition not mainstream. You're going to stand out, and people don't like the people that stand out. So I think a true classic nerd will always be uncool. I think that's just kind of the definition of the term.
Nerds are awesome. Be nice to nerds, because chances are you're probably going to work for one day.